Okay, so in this tutorial we're going to create a CD album cover. We're going to create the cover from scratch, and we're going to be covering things like transfer modes, how to copy and paste and make selections in different layers. We'll be looking at different types of selections using quick mask mode, by using polygonal lasso tool, by using the pen tool. We'll also be using clone stamp tool, transfer modes, etc. So it covers quite a bit, everything from the basics to a bit more advanced things like vanishing point and getting perspective. Okay, so everything you do, you'll be creating an album cover here, but this can be applied to whether you're creating a DVD cover or creating a poster, because you'll have some design principles that you'll be applying to this. First of all, for this, it's a single, and the name of the single is Non ti scordar mai di me. So this is an Italian song. So we have to make decisions before we even go into Photoshop. We have to start thinking about things like color scheme. What is listening to the song and figuring out things like what is the mood of the song. Okay, so in the song, it's about the Non ti scordar mai di me means never forget me, and it's also in Italian. So for a color scheme, I started thinking about things like, well, if I'm taking something basic as, let's say, Italy, an Italian song, what do I think of? Maybe I think of the Romans. So I chose something here that you can see the ground in the background here, and that's actually an image of the Appian Way. So these Roman times remind me of the kind of brown stone of the Appian Way, and this kind of reasoning influenced the color scheme I was going to pick. So brown representing a kind of the Italian theme of the song, the language of the song. And then also some of the lyrics in the song about, do not forget me, and it being a love song as well. So I thought, there's some despair and melancholy in there. So I thought I would use black to juxtapose the actual the brown color in there. Okay. What I also thought would be nice would be to try and represent the lyrics of the song, the actual sound of the song, visually. So what I'm doing in this initially is creating a spectrograph. The spectrograph is just a visual representation of an actual sound. So I used a free program that you can download, that you just upload the song into it, and it'll give you a visual spectrograph, which is just basically loads of different lines. Okay, so you can use this one here. If you're working in labs, you may not be able to install this free program, but if you're working at home, you can install the free program, and I'll include a link on Blackboard. And but otherwise, you can use the one that I've included in the folder. Now let's get started on the tutorial. Okay, now that we're inside the program, what we're going to do is open up the files that we need. So we've just created our image in the last program. So what we want to do now is we want to colorize this image. Now we talked about having a color scheme. So our first one that we're going to use, the first color, is our brown, representing an Italian Italy. So what I chose was the Appian Way. So if we open up the Appian Way, what we're going to do is we're going to use our color picker. So if you go down to here on the toolbar, we can see we have our eyedropper tool. So if we hover over an area of the actual image, one of the, let's say, brown areas, okay, we can see over here in our color bar that we get our OR, G and B values up there. So a good note of this point would be you might want to take down these values, 206, 189 and 179. And now what we're going to do is we're going to colorize our spectrogram. So there's several ways of colorizing an image, and if you go into the image up here, you can see that we have several different adjustments. We can adjust color balance, or the curves, which will brighten and darken our image. Basically, we have our levels that you should usually use to lighten or darken your image. And we have various other different ones. So if I want to replace a color in an object, I could use replace color, etc. So there's a few different ones that you have in there. What we're going to do to make this spectrogram, we want to make it the brown color, is we're going to use levels. So inside levels, we can see it inside our channel, we have RGB. Now if I adjust my levels inside here, if I go over to the right a second, you can see that it's adjusting the brightness and darkness of my actual image. So these points up here on my input levels represent, let's say down here would represent the shadows, so it'll darken the shadows if I go here. The middle pointer will be the midtones, and my upper pointer here will be the highlights. So if I wanted to make the highlights brighter there, I can bring them up. Now, what a lot of people, or some people don't know, is that you can actually color correct inside of levels, or change the color of something. And we have 3 different channels here. Now each of our image, whatever image we have, is made up of 3 channels, red, green and blue. It's an additive mixing system. So if we go through, let's say we go through our red channel first, if we adjust the output level, let's say maximum at 255 at the moment, and if we take our first value that we just wrote down, which was 206 for the brown color, 206 representing the red channel, we'll just change this to 206. You can type it into the box instead of sliding. Change our green channel, which was 189, and change our blue channel to 179. Okay. And so we're after changing the color of the image using our levels and individual channels to actual color correct it. Okay. So we'll go back to RGB. Now what I want to do, I'm going to click OK here. We have our colorized image. What I want to do first is I want to darken this image because I only want to use part of it. So I'm going to use my curves adjustment tool. See our dialog box open, and what I'm going to do is adjust the curves in the center on the RGB, and as you can see, as I adjust it, it's bringing down the darkness of the image, as we can see here. So I just want to keep around the bottom part of the image here. I'm going to press OK on that. Now if I go back into our levels adjustment, what I'm going to do is using on the RGB channel, this will change the brightness and darkness of my object. I'm just going to take down the shadows just to make it a bit darker in areas. Take down the midtones a bit, that's a tiny bit, and that should be okay. Now this part is nearly finished. What we want to do next is we're just going to, inside our tools, we're just going to paint over using our brush tool. If I change down here my color swatch, let's say I'll change this to black. Okay, so we have a foreground and background color here. The shortcut is X for that. And I can increase or decrease the size of my brush either by using the bracket keys. There's an outer bracket, and a right bracket and a left bracket. If I bring those up and down, it'll increase the size of my brush. One thing to note is that if caps lock is turned on, this is what your brush will look like, so you won't see the circle. So if you're having this problem, just turn caps lock off. Also, with whatever tool you choose, you'll get a different options menu bar up here. So if I was on the clone stamp tool, I'll get different clone stamp options. I'm on the brush tool, I'll get my brush options. And inside my brush options, I can make the brush edge harder, I can make it softer. So at the moment it's a soft brush edge, which is what I want, and I'm just going to take care of these just the edges of the image, just the sides and a bit around here. Okay, and that's the spectrogram finished and ready to go. Okay, so now we're going to create a new project. If we go File, New, we get our options for a new project open. So in here we have different presets. Now the first thing, to show you something that'll come in useful for when you're creating your DVD menus. So when you're creating your menus, you'll generally create them inside Photoshop. And these are the menus when you insert the DVD into the computer or the DVD player, that these are the menus that you'll see on your television screen. Now these have to be a certain size. So in our presets here, we can go to Film and Video, and we have different size options down here. So for a standard television, our size is PAL D1 DV widescreen. It's PAL because PAL is for the UK. NTSC don't create in this because it is for the United States. Okay, so if we go into PAL D1 DV, you can see our resolution, our standard resolution is 720 by 576. Our pixels per inch is 72, which is standard for television. We'll see why that's very important in a minute. And you can see our pixel aspect ratio is 1.42. Now what is this? This is the size of the individual pixels. So there's 720 pixels across by 576 lines down. So if I just went into, you might make the mistake of choosing PAL D1 DV, which is 4:3. So this is more a square size of a television, like the older televisions. Nowadays, most people, or a lot of people, have widescreen TVs. So if we go down to our pixel aspect ratio, we can see that is 1.07, which is more of a square type value. Okay, so that's the difference. But interestingly, the width 720 by 576 is the actually the same. What differentiates it is the pixel aspect ratio. So if this was changed back to widescreen, you can see it's 1.42. So each side of a pixel is 1.42 times wider than the other side, basically. Okay, and back to our project. We go back to default Photoshop size. We're going to change this to millimeters. Now, for my CD cover, I've measured it, or the standard size of a CD cover, just the front cover, is 120 by 120 millimeters. The size for the whole thing, including the back, would be 242 by 120. Okay. Now our pixels per inch, change this back, you can see it's 72. Now this is critical, because you're creating, when you are actually creating the cover for your DVD box, that will be a particular size, and there's a template up for that up on Blackboard at the moment. But a critical thing to do is that this value needs to be changed to 300 pixels per inch. So anything that's going to be printed out needs to be 300 pixels per inch. A lot of mistakes people make is leaving this at 72, which is fine for television, but it's not good for print. And what will happen when you print your document out is that you'll get jagged edges, and the quality won't be as good. So make sure for anything that's going to be printed, this is at 300 pixels per inch. And our pixel aspect ratio is square pixels. Okay, and that's our new document. I'm just going to name this CD cover, and we're ready to go. So the first thing we're going to do is unlock the background under your